Hi guys, how you guys doing? I'm hoping you guys have been well. I want to say thank you for everybody who checked my last video and subscribed. You know what? Pole pole dear mendo. Anyway, welcome to your wellness club. My name is Coach Mary Snyder. So today I'm going to talk about loss and grief. Yes, this is a very sensitive topic. This is a topic where most people do not like to discuss about it because loss is not a good thing in our lives. But it is part of life. I know at some point in everybody's life, we go through losses, we go through grief, and that's why today I want us to talk about loss and grief. So, let me start by telling you what are the types of loss so that we understand what exactly when I talk about loss and grief. The loss and grief that we all understand is the loss of life, like where someone dies, and like I've said, in someone's life, at some point in someone's life, or in some point in my life or in your life, we all going to go through loss, or we're going to have someone that we love that dies. We're going to have a loved one die, and all those things. So there is loss of life, that is death. There is also divorce, that is loss of marriage or status. You are married, now you are single. That is there's also probably loss of a relationship, like your significant person, or someone that you cared about. You guys have kosanad, and now that is also loss. Let me also mention there is loss of job, like you can lose your job, and that is also a big loss in our society, in our life now, because that is where we get our daily bread. There's also loss of health. Loss of health, this is whereby, probably, let's give an example. You are walking and now you're using a wheelchair, or probably you have been diagnosed with an illnesses, that are terminal illnesses, and there are so many. So that is also the loss of health. There's also loss of friendship. There's also loss of status. Maybe you're working in this company, you are the CEO and no longer have that position, and there's also probably loss of a baby. Could be a miscarriage. That is also loss, because you're anticipating to have a baby, and this loss also comes with loss of dreams. Maybe you've been wanting to become a mom, and now you're pregnant, and then you've lost the baby. There's also loss of financial loss. This is where you lose your properties. This is when you lose money. It could be money, could be properties. And there's also retirement. That's also a loss, where you were working, you had a career, you had a life and all that, and then now you've come of age of retirement. So we're going to discuss about all these losses. So the method, or the theory, I'm going to use a certain theory. There are so many theories when it comes to loss and grief, but the theory I'm going to use can relate to all those kind of losses. Now let me talk about how people react to grief. We all react to grief differently. For example, if you are given a news that someone has died, or a news that your husband has lost a job, or you have lost a job, or you have been diagnosed with a disease, we have different reactions. Some will cry, some will be angry, some will feel empty. Some people will be silent. The people who just will be silent, and they do not want to do anything. The people who will be easily irritable, and the people who will ask themselves question, why did I do this? If and there are people who will just pause and go silent, or some get numb, like a statue. So we all react to loss and grief differently. So the theory I'm going to discuss have 5 stages, and this theory was written by Rose Kabler. So Rose wrote a book on how people can go through loss and grief in their life, and this was in 1969 when she wrote the book. Anyway, guys, let's dive into the stages of loss and grief. So this theory of Rose have 5 stages. Stage number 1 is denial. This is where we deny, hapana, no, that has not happened. When we receive, bad news, if I should say, when you receive some news, you like, no, no, that will not happen. We get into now, and that is the first stage. This is where we avoid to believe that what has happened. We are confused if this is true. Sometimes we go into shock and even fear. So that's stage number one. In stage number two is where anger. This is where you are angry about the situation. You get frustrated, you're irritable, and anxious. You're anxious. And then let's go to stage number three. I'm going to explain all the stages as I go, and I'm just mentioning the stages. Stage number three is bargaining. This is where you bargain. You struggle to understand what is happening. You try to reach out to people and ask them if they understand what is happening to you, and you even tell your story about this, about what is happening to you, because you're in a bargaining stage. And then stage number four is depression. So sometimes you feel depressed. You may feel overwhelmed by the situation. You feel overwhelmed. You feel helpless, that there's nothing you have done about the situation. You feel sometimes hostile, or you can even fight. You fight with yourself in your mind and your cognitive self, like, what is this? You're trying to understand what is happening. And then stage number five is acceptance. This is where you accept the situation and accept and want to explore more on what has happened. You want to see what are the options that I have for this. Probably you have new plan or in place, or you are moving on to that situation. So let me go into details on the stages. So before that, this theory, there are so many theories, just to say, there's theories that have 7 stages, some have 9, but personally I relate to this theory that has 5 stages. And again, let me say this, that not everybody goes through the loss of this the loss stages, or the loss and grief stages, in the order, like I've said: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. Not everybody goes through that, the way it is. We all go it through differently. There are some people who will jump probably depression. There are some people, and there are people who stay in one particular one for a very long time, and they jump around. So as I'm giving this theory, this is going to help you, or a friend, or a family member, or someone who has lost someone, who has lost a property, who has gone through a miscarriage, who has gone through a divorce, and they're going through loss and grief. So like I've mentioned, know that, so if you're helping someone, you're in stage 3, no. We all go through different stages, and we sometimes skip other stages, and you may not go through all the stages. So grief is an overwhelming emotion. So guys, do not pretend that all is okay, because it's not okay. Change has happened. You've lost a loved one, you've lost a job. That's a major change in your life, and some change comes when we have not anticipated them. Anyway, let me dive into denial. Stage number 1, like I've said, stage number 1 is denial. Denial, this is where it gives you time to gradually absorb the information that you have received. That's why you find stage number 1 is denial, where you deny because your system, your body, your cognitive has not fathomed what has just happened. If it's a loved one who has died, you like, So this is a mechanism to allow your body to gradually absorb the information that you have just been given. So this is like a process, processing time, processing the new reality of what has happened. This is also a defense mechanism and helps you numb. It helps you to numb you. So it's a defense mechanism to help you numb you and to come into the realization or reality of what has just happened. Also, it helps you move from one stage to another one, where you will say, okay, so before you go to the next stage, this is where pole. So that is what denial, you will get comfortable with the loss as time goes. This is where tumesema, when you get the first reaction, no, it has not happened, you deny. Okay, let me give you an example when someone receives such an information. So for example, an example let's give an example of divorce or breakup. So this is where I would say they're just upset. They will call me tomorrow. So if this is a divorce or a relationship that has ended, you say, no, they'll call me back. They'll call me back. They're just upset. That's how we deny you. Like, no, it's not true. When it comes to a job loss, you say, you know what? They're mistaken. They're mistaken. They will call me back and tell me that they want me back to work. And then again, if it's death, you say, no, she's not dead. Or he's not dead, depending. She's not dead. She will come back around. This is where when you receive the message of someone is dead, like, no, it's a lie. She's not dead. She's just sleeping. No, like, no, Ajako. So such situation. So when it comes to terminal illnesses, the way we react to say, this is not happening to me. The results are wrong. And so probably you can seek you can go to other hospital and other hospital because your body has not absorbed exactly what is happening. No. The results are wrong. I need to find I need to find probably another, I need to go to another checkup and get another opinion, Anyway, so let's go to number 2, anger. While denial is considered as a coping mechanism, anger is a masking effect. This is where you mask or you hide, suppress the pain and the emotions that you're feeling. This is where you want to suppress all that you're feeling, and so you redirect them to anger. Even when your cognitive brain knows that this, because the brain is rational, it knows that this is what is happening, but what you do, you suppress the emotions and you direct them to anger. So you get angry to anybody and everything that is happening to you. Now let me give you an example. This is where you feel bitter. This is where you feel resentment over things. And so as you start, if you start the stage 2 of anger, you start being angry, you start being resentment to things. And so when the anger starts to goes down, you start thinking rational, you start thinking straight of what is happening. Let me give you an example. Let me give you examples on the same. Let's give an example when you're talking about anger. Example, if number 1, divorce. So when you're going to stage 2, anger and divorce, where you say, I hate him, he will regret leaving me. You see, now you're angry, say, I hate him, he will regret leaving me. This is how you direct your emotions and feelings. And then when it comes to job loss, you will say, it was a terrible job, he was a terrible boss, he will fail. You see how you start putting out? And then when it comes to death, you say, if she only cared about herself better, this would not have happened. So probably if someone, you have been telling them to stop probably drinking and all those things, so you start saying that. If it's a terminal illness, you'll say, where is God in all this? How dare God allow me to go through this pain? How will God allow this to happen to me? And that's how you think when it comes to stage 2. So let's go to stage 3, bargaining. So stage 3, this is where you bargain. This is where you're a bit vulnerable, a bit helpless. In this moment, your emotions are intense. We don't know where to run to. We don't know what to do, because you're beginning like, if I wouldn't have done this, would this have happened? This is where you start asking yourself questions like, what if? So you start asking yourself, what if? You start asking, if only. So if it's job, you're like, if only I worked over the weekend, So this is where you feel like you cannot change the situation. Does it feel like your situation, you cannot be able to change the situation? And you find people of faith in this situation want to even tell God, if this happens, they want to make a promise to God, and God, if you let this happen, I will serve you, I'll tell everybody to, this is where you want to put even mostly the people who are more spiritual. Now, let me talk a little bit about this. Let me give you an example. Before I give you an example, guys, this is where we want to postpone. This is where we want to postpone how you're feeling. So we want to postpone our emotions. Yeah. So you see, like the other ones who are suppressed, this is where you want to postpone, because now they are strong, they are coming, you're feeling helpless, you're asking yourself, what if only I did this? And this is where you want to run away from your emotions. And then you start feeling sad, and sad kind of things. Anyway, let me go to example, divorce. So divorce. So in divorce, you'll say, if only I spent more time with her, she wouldn't have left me. So you start putting, you feel helpless. You say, if only I spent time. When it comes to job loss, you say, if only probably I worked hard, if only I worked even over the weekend, this will not have this will not have happened to me. I still have my job. And then when it comes to when it comes to death, you say, if only I had called her that night, she wouldn't be gone. Or if only I'd call her the way she had told me to call. Like when someone will tell you to call them and say, I'll call you back, and you don't call them, and they say, if only I would have called her, maybe this will not have happened, maybe she wanted to tell me something, and you start saying, if only, if only. And then it comes to terminal illness, you say, if only we had gone to the doctor early, if only I had gone to see the doctor early, if only I did not ignore how I was feeling, this probably I would have stopped. This could not have been in stage 4, and all those things. So you start as just going to say, if only I would have done this. This stage is when now you start asking yourself, did I do my best? If things have been different if I did this and this. So that is how bargaining is. It's crazy. This is where your emotion have start coming and you don't know what to do. Let's go to stage 4. Stage 4, depression. So guys, while anger and bargaining can feel very active, depression, on the other hand, feels a bit quiet. This is where you feel overwhelmed, you feel heavy, and you feel confused, fog. So when it comes to depression, this is where now you go down. The situation, because you have been suppressing, you have been masking, now is coming to reality. And so you feel depressed. You start feeling, overwhelmed by what is happening or the new change. And this is where now we want to go to embracing, or you like, what is working, what can work after this has happened. So depression, you feel like there's a lot on your shoulders. You feel like, how will I get out of this? So you feel stuck. So when you feel stuck, or when you're depressed in this situation, you feel sad. The things you liked doing, you do not like anymore. And when you're in this stage, sometimes some people takes long, some people don't, some people even don't pass through this stage. But this is where, if you feel you cannot be able to unstuck yourself, or you feel stuck, this is where you can probably reach out to your friend and tell them, you know what, I've been feeling this way, or you can get you can talk to a professional, a mental health professional, who can help you. Anyway, let me give you an example when it comes to this stage. So like when you get to, for example, a divorce, so you say, why go on with all this? So divorce, you ask yourself, why go on with all this? This is where you feel like you want to give up. When it comes to job loss, and you'll say, I don't know how to go forward from here. You understand? So like in depression, you feel stuck. You feel like, you know what, I've lost this job, I cannot get another job. So you feel very stuck. And then when it comes to death, you say, what am I without her? If it's your husband, what can I do without him? You feel very stuck. This is where you are stuck, you are depressed, you are down, koko chini kabisa. And then when it comes to terminal illness, you ask, my whole life comes to this terrible disease, my whole life will come to an end this way, because you are being diagnosed by a terminal illness. And this is what you're asking yourself. That's what, when you're depressed, you feel like stuck, you feel there's nothing else that can happen to you, and you feel like you want to give up. Please reach out to someone, tell your friend, this is how I've been feeling, or you can get help with mental health, and you can also do that. I'll give you guys my email before we finish. Let me go to number 5. Number 5 is acceptance. This is where now you start the necessary process of trying to deal with the situation. And again, guys, just to say, because number 5 is acceptance, does not mean that you'll feel happy. It doesn't mean that you'll be uplifted, but you will start having rational conversation with yourself about what is happening. This is where you say, anyway, even if this has happened, at least I have my life. At least I can be able to pick myself and move forward. This is where you start accepting the difference that has happened. If you lost your husband, this is where you start accepting the difference, that yes, my husband did die, but I appreciate the years that I spent time with them. This is where I look at the maybe. This is where you start saying, this is where you look at more better days than more bad days. Let me give examples on what you will say to someone who has gone to a stage of acceptance. It comes to divorce, you say, ultimately, this was a healthy choice. I did make a good decision to leave that marriage. You see, now you're accepting that this is what happened, and this was actually the best for you. And then when it comes to someone who has lost their job, you'll say, I'll be able to find another job. I'll be able to move forward and start again. You see, guys, do you see the difference where someone has been, so where someone is stuck and where someone is able to move on? So when it comes to death, you say, I am so fortunate to have spent these more years with them. Like at least I got a chance to spend 20 years with them. You are looking forward for better days, even in your loss and grief. When it comes to terminal illnesses, you say, I have the opportunity to tie things up and make sure I get to do what I want before my final months or weeks, depending. You see, now the difference is not like you're happy or what, but at least you are able to accept the new change that has happened into your life. Let me give you a few takeaways when you're dealing with loss and grief. Is to understand that grief is a reality, that we all go through it, that we have agreed, that we all go through grief, loss and grief differently. The way your friend will go through loss is not the same way. Let's give an example. If we all lose an important person, if we all lose probably a mother, and we are 5 siblings, all the 5 siblings are going to go through it differently. All right, so we all grieve differently, so we don't expect everybody to grieve the same. The grief is very personal. It's personal depending on how well or how attached or how you related with the person. Okay, so some people, grief may take several years, some it may take several months, some it will take few. So like I've said, we all grieve differently. And then we need to have a discussion. I feel like we need to have a discussion when it comes to losses. We need to have a discussion on loss. We need to have a discussion on grief. We need to have this discussion with people. If you decide you need help to go through loss and grief, I can be able to give you institutions or people, counselors, professionals, therapists that can help you go through loss and grief. Now, you can reach out to a money counseling center. They have a one-on-one counseling that they do. And you can also email me, marysnyder99@gmail.com. And we can be able to have more conversation when it comes to loss and grief. And again, guys, loss and grief is part of our life. If you have gone through any loss and grief, I can imagine it is hard. And so, take time. It's gonna be okay. Anyway, that is all I had for you guys today. This topic is sensitive because these are things that I personally can relate with. I've gone through loss. I've lost, or people have died that I really cared about. Their dreams that I wanted to accomplish, but they were not possible. So I've also gone through loss, and I understand that it is hard, but however, we can be able to come out of it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I appreciate you guys for your time. Please subscribe, tell a friend, and see you in the next video.